I think a big question to be asked about today's gospel passage is, why was Jesus tempted by Satan in the desert? I mean, he could have done it at night while he was sleeping. I know many of us struggle with our worst thoughts at those moments. Or perhaps while he was preaching, attempting to dissuade him from staying on track. But no, Satan attempts while he's in the desert. Why? The most natural answer to this is that we are most likely to give in to temptation when we are being denied our most basic needs. And there's definite truth in this answer. If we go to Matthew's gospel, which has a fuller telling of these events, Christ is tempted 3 times, and the first of those attempts is about Christ's hunger. But I also think this is an incomplete answer. And this is demonstrated by the fact that the remaining 2 temptations that Satan gives him are not about his hunger and his thirst, or anything else about being in the desert, but about grander things. So instead, I would argue that what makes the desert both special and appropriate is that it is a place free from worldly distractions. I have to admit, a decade ago, I didn't think much about the desert, but I've actually spent a lot of time out there in recent years, both backpacking and doing astronomy. And as I began to know the desert better, I found out it was a very different place than it appeared to be when flying down Highway 80 at 75 miles an hour. Now it's up to 80 in one spot, I think, the speed limit. And what I found is that the desert, once you slow down and pay attention, the desert is alive in ways you could never imagine. Once you are free of those distractions of trying to get somewhere else and you are present to the desert, it comes alive. And so based on that, I don't think that it is Satan went out of his way to tempt him when he was in the desert. It's instead that while Jesus was there, he was more aware of everything happening in the spiritual world. His senses were able to sense what he couldn't sense when he was in his normal daily life with the normal daily distractions. And so he better was able to see what the devil was trying to do all the time. He was just more aware of it when he took retreat to the desert. And so that begs the important question, what is it that we are missing in our distracted lives? How are we being attacked that we are not aware of? Because our lives are full of a remarkable amount of noise, and it's only getting worse. I've spoken before that I think the devil is practically resident in our cell phones, constantly looking for ways to interrupt us, to disrupt our good and healthy things with, here comes an email, here comes a text, here comes yet another thing to rob us from being present in our actual lives. So if we are going to tap into the spiritual, if we are going to be made aware of the ways God is present, about the ways we are tempted, we have to find a way to get away from the distractions of daily life. We have to take that phone and not only turn it off or put it in silent mode, throw it in the backyard so it has no value of actually interrupting us. Because it seems like even when it's off, it wants to find its way on. We have to find quiet places. If you have a busy household like mine, I am not getting in good prayer time from about 6 to 9 at night. I have to wake up early if I want to pray. So we have to find a way in our lives to find a place like the desert that is quiet, where we can slow down, where we can sense how God and his angels are present, where we can see how the devil is attacking us. And we can also see the tools that God is giving us to fight back. And of course, Lent is the perfect time for us to do this. I mean, there is so much going on at this parish this Lent. Father George is working very hard to make sure there are extra activities with extra time for adoration. And I want you to pay attention during the announcements after Mass and look in the bulletin and seriously pray about how you can make good use of these opportunities, how you can find some quiet time to know God. We're going to finish today by playing a video which has a related purpose. Its goal is to remind us that there is a lot more not only happening in the rest of our lives, but right here on the altar during Mass. There is much more happening than what we can materially see. It's easy to forget. It's easy to be distracted. I remember when my primary goal in life was to keep the kids from fighting in the pew, you didn't notice a lot what was happening here on the altar. But there is a miracle and a mystery happening here every Mass. And if we can find, just like Jesus in the desert, a way to slow down, a way to focus, a way to pay attention to what is happening to this mystery, to this miracle that is here on the altar, it will inspire us. It will remind us of the gift that God has given us in the Mass. And so I ask you to pay close attention to this video and to remember all that is happening right here, right now.